What is up, guys? It's your boy, Sick Cactus. Turns out when you have a 1-year-old kid, they're basically like the Halo Flood. They exist to infect you. And today, the Destiny 2 Into the Light DLC is only a couple of days away. And I wanted to talk about the fact that there was a huge amount of people super excited for this DLC, and there's also a sizable amount of people who are disappointed with Into the Light. I have seen a ton of negativity in my comment sections, on Twitter, etc. And even people who are kind of excited for Into the Light are also making jokes about it at Bungie's expense, etc. So what the heck is happening? Why is the Destiny community divided over this upcoming DLC? Well, to answer that, we need to go over what content is coming within Into the Light, and also how that content was revealed, because it actually took place over 3 different developer live streams. The first live stream, 3 weeks ago at this point, was all about the Onslaught game mode. It's a wave survival game mode, but it only goes to wave 50. There's also a legend difficulty. It's the main thing we're going to be playing in Into the Light. Then, the second week, Bungie showed off the Brave Arsenal weapons, the actual loot we're going to earn for playing that Onslaught game mode. And they can come in kind of a normal version or a special glowing version that's even more rare. And then, after that, the third and most recent livestream was about 2 exotic missions coming back into the game. The Whisper exotic mission, as well as the 0-hour exotic mission. Now, at this point, half of you are probably going, what's wrong with that? That all sounds sick. And the other half are going, oh buddy, I already know what the problem is. In fact, I made an all caps lock comment about what the problem is. And of course, the problem is that it's all recycled content. Almost everything coming within Into the Light has stuff that has previously existed within the game. I mean, back to that first livestream. Yeah, Onslaught as a game mode looks cool, but the gameplay we saw was them playing on the Midtown PvP map, a map that has been in the game since Destiny 2 originally came out. Then, of course, all of the Brave Arsenal weapons are just returning fan-favorite weapons. The Mountaintop, the Recluse, they're actually weapons that, as long as Dado didn't get to your vault, some of you guys may have access to them right now. You can go and use a Blast Furnace right now. Now, of course, the new versions are going to have new perk pools and stuff like that, but still, they are just reskinned weapons that already existed for the most part, I think with one exception. And then, of course, with the 2 exotic missions, both of those missions were already in the game. I played Whisper, I played 0-hour when they came out years ago. So of course, that has been the main complaint. I mean, in the actual live streams, the chat was just spamming the recycle symbol when a lot of this stuff was being shown off. Like, there is people who are like, can we not get something new? Now, with that being said, there is such thing as good recycled content, and I think a great example of that is the Battlegrounds missions, right? They take place on areas in the game that have, you know, for the most part been there for years, but it's areas that are in campaign missions and stuff that you really aren't playing, so repurposing that content and making it feel fresh and giving you something new to do within a season, I think is a great idea. And that same logic can absolutely be used for a lot of this stuff, right? Like, the Mountaintop has roles it was never capable of getting before. Same with the Recluse, same with the Blast Furnace, and the 2 exotic missions, Bungie has stated, they're going to be different this time around. They won't play identically to the old versions, and even the rewards, like if you have an original Whisper of the Worm sniper rifle, the new one that you're getting from the updated Whisper mission is actually going to be craftable. So you can now select the perks you want. It can get field prep to increase the reserve ammo. Like, it's outright better. It's worth going after, right? And I do think the majority of people, including myself frankly, have adopted that line of thinking where we acknowledge it is recycled content and maybe we would prefer a brand new area of the last city to play Onslaught in, right? But it's still looking like a pretty fun experience. I'd rather have a new version of the Mountaintop that I will actually use rather than just have an existing Mountaintop that sits in my collections and I'll never put on, right? However, saying that kind of stings, and it introduces another point of contention, and that is, why is my original mountaintop stuck in my collections and I'll never use it? Well, it's because it's sunset, right? Bungie came along and said, these weapons are so overpowered, we need to force you to stop using them by artificially setting their light level lower so that you can't use them in any content that requires a high light level, right? Like any endgame content. But now they're back? So the mountaintop was so overpowered, you had to introduce sunsetting that made so many players so angry, made so many players quit, like they had their arsenal being taken away from them. But now it's fine? Now it's not overpowered? Like, and it's not even necessarily dumbed down, right? The mountaintop can get perks that it could never before. It actually, its main perk, Micro Missile, is an intrinsic trait. It's arguably even better than the version from your collections. Maybe the original mountaintop is more powerful, but you guys get my point. Certainly the Blast Furnace and the Hammerhead Machine Gun from the Black Armory DLC, that stuff is literally better than the original versions. Like, the rolls are literally better than the original versions you could get. So, like, have we power creeped so far that these weapons are fine now? Maybe, but again, it definitely stings a bit that Bungie forced us to stop using these weapons and then brings them back. So it's like, okay, well, maybe they weren't as overpowered as you originally claimed. Maybe we could have been using this stuff all along. Maybe, right? And I think that also applies to the 2 exotic missions. Bungie said that they had to delete those exotic missions because the game would just be too bloated. I guess people's PlayStations would explode. I don't know exactly why, but they said we need to delete these missions. We need to delete some content from the game because otherwise the game will be too bloated. And now they're back. So, does Bungie just not care about file size anymore? Like, this is another big problem, is like, we went over this whole rigmarole. We went over so many TWABs and posts and dev updates explaining why these things have to be taken away just for years later them to be reintroduced, right? And I can totally see why people are mad about that. I completely understand it. Overall, though, you know, there are some other explanations rather than just nefarious ones. Perhaps Bungie improved their engine, improved their programming, and so now they can fit more stuff in the game. So bringing back these 2 exotic missions is not going to bloat the file size. Perhaps, again, literally they just don't care anymore. Warzone came out, and that's like a 200 gigabyte download, so maybe just people don't care about file size anymore. And for the weapons, yeah, like, we have power crept. The meta is different. We have totally new things such as the seasonal artifact perks that, you know, we have had years and years of experimenting with, and they can really define the meta without having like one weapon always being used, because you have seasonal artifact perks that kind of force you into using, not force you, but they strongly direct you into using different elements, right? So Bungie can manually change the meta without taking stuff away as much. So again, it's not like Bungie is out here being evil necessarily, right? I don't think it's as underhanded as some people are making it out to seem. I think they literally went, let's reintroduce some fan favorite stuff. And undoubtedly, this is fan favorite content. The Brave Arsenal are all bangers, right? Except for the Hung Jury, but that's another topic. And the 2 exotic missions, they are literally the best exotic missions we have ever gotten in this game. They are so good. And whereas a lot of people are salty that this content is returning, there's also a lot of people who just weren't there for the original content, right? Like, I'm a Destiny 1 alpha veteran. Like, I have been here since literal day 1, baby. And so it's kind of funny that we are getting reskinned, updated versions of 2 exotics that were already reskinned, updated versions from the original versions that were in Destiny 1, right? So, like, this game is a lot of reintroduction of old content, and sometimes it feels stale, and other times Bungie goes in, they completely change how the perks function, they completely change, you know, an old piece of content, and it feels very fresh. And a good example is the Crota's End Raid. The Destiny 2 Crota's End Raid feels very different than Destiny 1 Crota's End Raid. So again, I don't think it's this massive nefarious thing. I think they were just trying to introduce, right, some fan favorite content, but I understand why people are kind of like looking at this and going, you know, you told us that we couldn't have this content because it would break the game, because it would do all these bad things, and now it's back. So, like, what happened? And I think maybe we'll learn one day, maybe we never will, For the most part, I'm gonna be in the Into the Light DLC. I'm gonna be enjoying it. I'm gonna be, farming the crap out of Onslaught. I'm gonna be doing the 2 exotic missions, and I think that something to remember certainly is like, yes, all of these complaints have merit, but at the end of the day, it's a free DLC. And that is a big thing, right? Like, if you go back to the 30th anniversary update, you had to pay. You actually had to pay a lot. Like, it was pretty expensive to get the Grasp of Avarice dungeon and to get the Galahorn, right? This, it's all free. Like, you don't have to pay for the exotic missions. You don't have to pay for Onslaught. Everyone gets access to this content. And in that scenario, I think you do have to be a bit more lenient. Yes, it's recycled content, but again, everyone gets access to it. You have so many new players who weren't there for the original ones that are about to now experience some of the best content we've ever seen. So anyways, that's an explanation of why people are divided. I just wanted to talk about it, and yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus, that is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.